Well, time now to turn to the cost of renting. Some families are being priced out of the private rented market with huge increases in the amount of rent they're being expected to pay. Ruth Bradley reports from Somerset.
We moved to Frome in April 2019.
Kay's lived in Somerset her whole life, moving to Frome 4 years ago. She and her husband both work full-time, and the eldest of her 3 children is at school here. But they're faced with having to leave the town because of the cost of rent.
This year, the rent was being increased again, and we tried to challenge it and explained that it would cripple us. And then literally the tenancy ran out on the 9th of April and we heard nothing. And nobody, the estate agents, would get back to us, no phone calls, no emails. We didn't really know what was going on. And then literally the 28th of June, we were served with a Section 21 on a Friday afternoon at 4:30 of a bank holiday. Couldn't get any hold of anybody, and it was delivered by hand.
Oh my goodness. And they were wanting to put the rent up a huge amount, weren't they?
Yes, £300.
£300 a month?
Month, yeah. They're looking for the market value of £1,500 a month, which, yeah, that would literally take my wages.
And how has all of this left you feeling?
For me, I feel quite numb at the moment because obviously, yes, I did phone the council. And there was a previous part of my life where I was a single parent and never once was I homeless. I always provided a roof for my children, and I'm not far off of 50, and to think that I'm now doing 2 jobs and I'm going to be homeless is something you expect in your 20s when you're establishing your family, not later on in life. And for me, I think to myself, I go to work, I start at 5:30, I finish at 6, and I think, really, is the government actually happy that we're not frivolous people? We don't have holidays. We don't have expensive things. We are literally just trying to keep a roof over our head. And I just find it really sad that the government thinks this is okay.
A few miles away in trendy Bruton, rentals are also hard to come by.
This development's called Bruton Cubis. So this is actually a fairly typical development for the size that gets built in Bruton these days. It's 68 houses. In the first phase there are 8 socially rented houses for which there were 99 applicants for 1 and 2 bed properties. So there's enormous demand around here.
You know, the biggest problem for these big employers is where are our staff going to live?
Exactly. You know, they need workers. We have, I think, the UK's biggest farmhouse cheese producer in the parish. You talk to them, their number one concern is where do their workers live. You talk to any of the schools and they'll say, where do our teachers and support staff live?
And Bruton's also become a really popular holiday destination, hasn't it? And so homes get turned over to the letting market.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, we need to be a visitor destination. That's great. If you're renting out a room in your house for a bit of extra income, as lots of people around here do, that's brilliant, because obviously that's extra places for guests to stay. Where it starts to become a problem is when you've got people renting out homes that would have been private rental before as Airbnb, because that loses a property for a local family to live in.
Between 2020 and 2021, it's thought rent in places like this went up by 11%. That's compared with 2% in cities. More people are moving to the countryside and working from home, and there are more and more holiday lets as well, all putting a lot of pressure on the housing market here. And here in East Somerset, we're only 2 hours from London as well. One countryside charity thinks the problems facing renters are indicative of the government's overall attitude to rural areas.
Policymakers have a tendency to overlook the needs of rural communities and the particular circumstances and challenges that people living in the countryside face. Housing is just one of those issues, but certainly a very big one. It also affects who can live in rural communities. If you have people of working age that are simply being priced out of their area, that community may well see a net loss of people who are working in local businesses and spending money in the local economy, and it could also further erode the viability of local services.
The government's expected to announce a long-awaited renters reform bill any day now. It says this will be a fairer deal for tenants, giving them greater security in their homes. The Department for Levelling Up, Housing and Communities also says it's built more than 243,000 affordable homes in rural locations since 2010. But for Kay and her family, any such change may come